What's up, fellas? Happy to see you guys for another episode of the Blind Pig Podcast, courtesy of bgobsession.com. Obviously, if you've been here before, thank you. Welcome back. If you haven't been here before, hook us up with a like, a share, and a follow. Catch us on all major audio platforms, all major socials, and of course at the mothership of bgobsession.com. Well, fellas, before we get rolling, I do want to take a moment, and I believe all of you would be appreciative of this, to call out our brother who has been a staple on this podcast. He's known as Enforcer on bgobsession.com, with to respect his privacy for him and his family. We won't get too much into the weeds and the details about it, but I will say it's only right for us to give him a moment here, to give him a call out, let him know, brother, we're thinking about you. We love you. And him and his family are wearing it pretty hard right now. And obviously, I'm being vague again to totally give out respect to privacy for him and the family. But we would be remiss if we didn't at least recognize you and say, hey, Enforcer, brother, this episode's for you, my friend. We're gonna, we'll keep you we'll be thinking about you. And if you watch this, I hope you can shut your brain down for a little while and just kind of let things go as best as you possibly can. So,
amen,
brother.
Well, without further ado, we can talk about what I would like to call an ass whooping on Sunday. Actually, I'd say it was probably 2 quarters of ass whoopings. It was 2 quarters of of wondering, and then 2 quarters of butt whipping. There's a lot of good positives to talk about, so I won't steal the thunder, but I'll open the floor to you fellas. What jumped out at you? What were some things you most excited about, and how much fun was that to watch? John, Mark, I know you two were at the game. How cool was that?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, but I know we want to get to the football, and I won't be long-winded. But last year we went to the game, and it wasn't the best experience. In fact, we almost got crushed to death, and I'm really not exaggerating. In one of the concourses was so packed with people were screaming and panicking. And this year, when we got to the stadium, they had opened up the escalators all the way up to the upper decks. So they clearly, and it was just a great experience overall. I've never seen so many stadium employees in my life. But I just thought it was they've done the best job they could with that stadium. And we had a lot of fun. It was a really great experience. So throw that out there before we talk football.
Mark, our brother from across the water, how was the game, my friend?
It was worth traveling 5,000 miles for, or whatever I did. I'll echo what John said about the stadium being a better experience than it had been. One thing I hope that they get right for the next stadium is I don't mind being shoulder to shoulder with my son and my brother John, but you are literally shoulder to shoulder, even in the upper deck at Northwest Stadium. It's really tight, and maybe that's just the way modern stadiums are. But I'm hopeful, Mr. Harris, Josh, that keep that in mind. Talk to fans who go and sit in the stadiums, because it's really tight. And it's one thing, I'm like with literally my son and my brother. But if I'm sitting next to some drunken Raider fan, that's not going to be a great experience, because we're bumping into each other anyway. As to the football, Derek, you nailed it. It was 2 quarters and then 2 quarters. The first half, I never really felt like we were in danger of getting blown out or anything, but it felt like it might be one of those games that you let get away, right? It's like we have all these opportunities early, and then all of a sudden you get to halftime and, oh shit, it's just going to be 10-10. The last couple of sequences of the first half where we get the touchdown, and then a nice end of half moment where we get a long field goal. And then, even more importantly to me, they came out defensively in the first drive of the third quarter and just stoned the Raiders, got the ball back. And then the third quarter just took off and never felt like the game was in danger.
I felt like when Mariota fumbled that ball as great a run as that was, that's when I got a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. Like, past. I think I even said to Mark, this is how you lose to a team you shouldn't lose to. But the main comment I wanted to make was about the rushing attack. We are a rushing offense, guys. And I mean, I don't know if it's going to change when Jaden gets in there, but we are currently, I'm looking at my cheat sheet here. We are currently second in yards in the NFL in the rushing game. We are fifth in scoring in the rushing game. And we ran for 201 yards against, I mean, granted, maybe not the greatest team in the world, but I mean, we pounded it down their throat.
Not only that, we did it. We went for 220 against the Giants in week 1. I mean, there was a mention on the board, and I kind of jumped on it, and it was they mentioned. Well, I hope that Kingsbury notices that and utilizes it. I'm like, well, he's been utilizing it for 3 weeks, brother. Like, I don't know what you're watching, but there's been a concerted effort to run the football, and we saw it in that preseason game. When our starters actually played against the Bengals, it was just we talked about it on this podcast. There were gaping holes, and you could tell that was intentional.
They did it with their 2 guards swapped out. They swapped out Brandon Coleman for Chris Paul. They swapped Allegretti out with Wiley. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't even notice that during the game. I had to catch it up on it later. So I mean, that's amazing that you basically swap out half your offensive line, and you still are able to dominate the line the way that they did.
What'd you think, Paul? I know that you hate O-line and you can't stand ground game, and you want them to throw the ball 500 times and live in the air. But did you enjoy the game?
Yeah, I loved it, and that was going to be my first take that I wanted to make. That being obviously that you win the trenches, you win the game. As John mentioned, we dominated along the offensive line in the run game. We were able to control the game defensively by bringing 4 for the most part, and we were quite effective. Eddie Goldman, Deron Payne, Kinlaw, all those guys made contributions. You saw Newton step up on a few occasions as well. We've been significantly better this year at stopping the run, and obviously that was our biggest defensive weakness last year. I think that is the recipe that allows for long-term success. Win the trenches, control the game at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and give yourself a chance.
Pretty sure you're also a fan of complimentary football, right, Brother Paul?
Yeah, I was going to mention that one too. I mean, you saw the explosiveness with Samuel and Lane. Those huge special teams plays set up some scores. It takes all 3 facets of the game, right? And we came up big time with special teams returns and whatnot, and that's going to give you a chance to walk away with wins.
Bob, what was your initial shock value there following the game on Sunday?
I didn't actually get to watch the game live. I've had to catch highlights and that type of stuff over the last couple of days, but I was watching ESPN on my phone while here in Dallas we got the Raiders and the Rams, or not the Raiders and the Rams, the Eagles and the Rams, and I thought I was going to have a really good day. For a while there, I thought I was going to have a great day, and then the Eagles did what the Eagles do, and if Washington hadn't done what they did, my day would have gone to shit. But it was fun to watch the score. And about the middle of the third quarter, I get a text message from my mom. Hey, Mom. My mom goes, I text message from mom. She goes, I just turned it on TV. Wow. I went, so it'd be the Commanders game. She goes, yeah. No, as long as they don't screw it up, we're good. It's like, Mom, that is not what you say. But
that's what we were saying.
Yeah. I was taken with God, I hate to use this word because it feels premature, but the sheer dominance that we displayed in all 3 aspects of the football game. Last year's team was really good, but I don't remember a game where we just utterly dominated somebody in all three facets of a football game: offense, defense, and special teams. And this had the feeling, dare I say it, of almost a Gibbsian type of a win, where all three facets contributed. We ran the football at will. We threw the football when we needed to. And when we did, the plays were big as often as they were small. I mean, it wasn't just a case of throwing, the 7-yard out to move the chains. There was the big one to Terry. There was a long one to Luke. Granted, they were runs and catches for them, or, run after the yards after the catch for the most part. But even so, we had big plays as well as the meat and potato stuff that you've got to have to maintain possession and continue to move the football. And dude, is Jeremy McNichols a violent guy or what? Highlights were great.
I think they decided we're gonna punch them in the mouth, and I think Galdi I think Kevin Sheehan made a big point of the fact that they were coming off a short week, we were coming off a long week, and that it was a perfect setup to just smash them in the mouth right out of the gate. And we ran 6 offensive linemen for the whole first drive, I believe, and then they had McNichols pounding and Deebo Samuel pounding, and so I think they just decided we're going to show them that they're not going to win this game right out of the gate, and that was the complete opposite of what Green Bay looked like, and maybe some of that was the quality of the opponent, and not coming off a short week, but
this was like the mirror image. This is like the mirror image of that, right, John? We had the short week and got up to Green Bay and didn't look ready to like we could compete. The Raiders went through the same thing this week.
And I mentioned Mariota, fumbling that ball, but Mariota was just unbelievable. I mean, that guy is as accurate a passer as anybody I've seen in the last couple of years. At least on Sunday, he was.
And by the way, whoever had it in the office pool when they told us before the season that we would have a running back break a 60-yard run, that you had Jeremy McNichols in that office pool, then I guess you earned your money, because let's be real here. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And then to do it coming off of being swarmed up at the line and then breaking free. And it's not like he was fighting people down the line. He broke that open. And yeah, he did kind of get caught from behind, but he's also not a 4-4 guy. So he was chugging. I thought it was a pretty cool run.
And he trucked Jeremy Chin like he was the nobody.
Yep. One of the biggest things now that I will say is, man, is it awesome to see explosive plays again. It not only was it explosive plays, but it was explosive plays in multiple different facets of the game. Deebo Samuel with opening the game and setting the tone. And as soon as it happened, I had some friends over. We were watching the game. I said, that is how you set this team up to be successful with a backup quarterback like Mariota. As you say, here, you only need 27 and you got a touchdown, right? And then Jalen Lane has a punt return for a touchdown. Terry McLaurin has a long, which should have been a touchdown. Jeremy McNichols has a big play for a touchdown. Even Luke McCaffrey's touchdown was over 40 yards, and that was in garbage ice the game time. So to be able to have those explosive plays like that, it changes the dynamic of that's how you hang 41 on a team. And we
had over 200 yards in returns, 200, and a touchdown. So, and it wasn't just Jalen. I mean, Deebo had the 93-yarder. Luke had a 25-yarder.
Right.
I mean, how long is it? I don't know when we've had a game like that since Brian Mitchell. Has it been that long?
Yeah. Somebody actually said there was a point in the game, and I don't know if it was at halftime or shortly after halftime, that Washington's special teams had outgained Vegas's offense.
I was surprised.
It was awesome.
Sorry, this just jumped into my head. If you haven't seen it yet, there was it's like on a reel at this point. Daron Payne taking out Geno Smith on an attempted block. Have you seen that?
Yes.
if you're listening and you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. It'll be absolutely worth the 30 seconds of your life.
How about Bobby Wagner, man? Bobby Wagner played it with his hair on fire in that game. I don't know. Do you have how many sacks?
He had 2. He got credited for 2. He could have had a third. There were multiple people saying there was another one that they either he just missed it or there was a penalty that negated it or something, but he could have had 3.
Keim was crediting Luvu for not only showing up, but on one of those Wagner sacks, Luvu is also coming and he gets double teamed, leaving Von Miller one-on-one with like a running back or something, just mismatch. I mean, leaving Wagner alone. So Frankie showed up too.
Arguably, I think most of the defense showed up, and I guess we can transition away from the offense unless there's something else you guys wanted to talk about. But defensively, it wasn't the greatest game, but I think but to be fair, a lot of what statistically we gave up was in garbage time. It was desperation. It was a rookie wide receiver catching 3 touchdowns and going for $175 because he's at one point Sanderstill, Lattimore, and Amos weren't even on the field. There was a couple times that Sanderstill was covering him, and he ended up breaking it free. But we were in total control of that game. And Genty, I think Genty had was it 65, 68 yards or something? I could look it up. Huh?
63.
But I think, if I'm not mistaken, 45 of that came on 3 carries. So the vast majority of the time, he was just not getting any push, any holes, any separation.
Well, we gave us some chunk plays. But here's the way I look at that. I mean, Geno Smith, that guy can play. I mean, he's a big guy. He's way bigger than you think of him as being, and he's got a really strong arm, and he can throw the ball. The fact that he could have eaten us alive if it wasn't for the pressure that we were putting on him. And I guess the one thing that I'm concerned about that we haven't talked about is that the DBs seem to be struggling at times still. And now we've got Will Harris out probably for the season, or most of it anyway, with a broken fibula. Trey Amos got banged up a little bit. Lattimore, I think they, kind of pulled him out with a possible concussion, although I think he cleared.
He did, and he cleared it in game.
And then I know we signed. I apologize, I can't remember his name. The former
Savage,
yeah, Savage. So I don't know. I think the DBs are going to be a work in progress for a while.
Well, two things were at play there in the second half. There was a busted deep ball. I think the first play of the game, or the first pass of the game, the Raiders had a deep ball. Looks like that was just a mix-up. In the second half, when it's 34-10, and we came on defense, John will tell you, I started saying right then, we're going to start backing off. Not only did we start backing off and trying to play umbrella, which we didn't do very well because we kept giving up big chunks, but that was not the same aggressive defense, and they started giving up more. And then I didn't find out until afterwards that we were down to one starter, right? Lattimore was out, Amos was out, and Will Harris was gone. So we're moving people around and trying to play this sort of prevent type defense. I wasn't surprised that they moved it on us a little bit more than we would have liked. And a couple of those deep shots, there was the one the touchdown, nobody should ever get behind you when you're playing prevent like that. That was bad. We need to work on that. But I never felt like the game was really getting away. I still felt like they were going to be able to shut it down if it ever got close enough that they'd be able to shut it down. Maybe that's naive, but that's the feeling I had in the stadium.
My
feeling.
I was just to say, my feeling kind of mirrors that, Mark. What I felt like was the offense kind of took their foot off the gas, but at any given point in time, had it been necessary, the offense could have just turned it back on, and we kind of did at the end, right? I mean, with the McCaffrey thing, we were really salting the game away, and I think Mariota saw that wide open Luke McCaffrey and went, "Let's just ice this for good and be done with it," But
I was so excited for McCaffrey, and I don't know if you got to see it, Bob, but he did the Landover leap, and he was 3 rows in. He didn't just jump up to the first row. He was
I know he was into the first row up to his knees.
And I'm starting to I have this idea in my head that like maybe that's going to change things a little bit. With maybe he got the monkey off his back, so to speak, and I mean he had 3 catches, and I mean really hadn't done a whole lot of anything up till now other than on returns. So I'm excited for him.
Depending
And
upon what
there were
Terry's
a lot of loop
situation is,
chants going on in the stadium.
depending upon Terry's situation, I feel like they're going to have to use him this next week.
Ben Sinnott got a ton of props from the coaches, and it was obviously I don't think he caught a pass, but he kind of picked up the Bates blocking duties and apparently did a hell of a job. So
He wasn't even targeted according to the stat box.
One other shout out. I got to give it to Josh Connerly. I don't know if you guys saw this stat, but he was credited with 0 pressures this week. Now, obviously, Crosby was doing some things, and there were a couple plays that there was one that's been floating around the internet where it's clear that Connerly his responsibility was the guard and not the end. And people are saying it was blown blocking, but going back to the actual statistic makers, he got credited with 23 pass snaps, 0 pressures allowed, and he's been kind of facing a lot of criticism over the first 2 weeks. And I think he kind of took another step, hopefully, and I think he held his own. So it was good to see that with a guy like that who clearly had been given a tall task over the first couple weeks of the season. He was able to respond and have a very good game.
So something I caught this afternoon, Chris Paul was the second highest rated player on the team in terms of individual performance by PFF. Now I know it's PFF, take it for what it's worth, right? But even so, for Chris Paul
round,
to be
right?
Huh? Yeah, 7th
was
rounder and a guy that I think a lot of people didn't expect to make the team this year after we started retooling the offensive line. I know I was among the doubters. I wasn't sure he was gonna, he was gonna make the active roster. I figured he'd be a practice squad guy, not necessarily an active roster guy. And here he was, the second highest rated player on the team. By the way, the highest rated player on the team for the day, the old man in the middle for the defense, Bobby Wagner, was the highest rated player on the team. So don't tell me about this age shit, man. It's just a number, and Wagner proves it every week.
So I had this thought last year about Wagner that I love that he's an Ironman and plays 100% of the snaps every week. I would really like to see them get to a point where they can sit him once in a while. I'd love to have him. And I mean, last year he makes me look like a fool for saying this because he was still going as strong against Detroit in the NFC or in the divisional round game as he was in week 1. But at some point, I'd really love to see my man McGee get on the field and start earning snaps and let Wagner take a series off once in a while just to preserve that man. I kept looking for McGee, and we finally found him once on a special team, and a nice special team tackle. It's the only time I saw him in the whole game. Did anybody else see anything else?
Not from McGee, no.
No, he is credited with 3 solo tackles. I just don't know if those are all special.
They're probably
teams, Mark,
special teams.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just keep waiting, right? They've been so high on him, and they talk about him in the preseason like we've got packages for him, and this is the guy. I'm starting to think what we see is what we get. But anyway, that's just another way of giving props to Bobby Wagner, who's just this eternal guy. I'd like to keep him an eternal guy as long as we can.
Seriously.
So Paul, would you like to lead us off on the what in God's name is wrong with Matt Gay discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you this. I mean, the guy hit a 50-plus yarder, but for myself personally, that didn't really inspire any confidence.
On his second attempt.
Exactly. He did it on the do-over. At some point at this rate, that guy is going to cost us games. And I feel like if we're not going to make a move and we're not going to get off of Matt Gay, Quinn needs to rediscover that aggressiveness that he had last year and start thinking about going for it on fourth down more often when the situation warrants it. Because this guy ultimately is going to hurt us. Even if you think back to that Green Bay game, as awful as we played against the Packers, if Matt Gay hits a couple field goals, we somehow have an opportunity to be in that game and have a chance in that game in the fourth quarter. So I can't explain it. It's quite sad because we've had some kickers in here in the past that have gone on to other teams and had a lot of success. 2 weeks ago, I watched Joey Sly hit 50-plus yarders on 2 occasions like it was nobody's business. We've given up on kickers in the past here, and hopefully this guy can turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, 3 of 6 that ain't going to cut it. And I'm not really concerned. People talk about it as the 50-yarders. He's 60% in his career, and he's had a pretty long career. So, last year the NFL average was 70, but that was 70% beyond 50 yards. But that's kind of an outlier, So, I mean, he's been solid from 50 and beyond in his career, but you can't be missing like 37 yarders, and you can't be missing 50% of your kicks. So, hopefully maybe he got the jimmies out of the system and is going to calm down. And I guess it's good in some ways that they kept going to him, because in a way, once you start not allowing him to kick because you're afraid, then it's kind of all over for the guy at that point.
Yeah.
I think this is the curse of the NFL is getting back at us for having Mark Mosley be the only kicker to ever be an MVP in the NFL. This is karma.
Oh, that's some long time karma, brother.
Well, we're getting ready to play Atlanta, who has 3 kickers. So
karma
far.
plays the long game, Derek.
Yeah, John, you meant that is a big time conversation on bgobsession.com right now. And I said on there, sometimes guys get, nobody's bats 1,000, but the stuff over 50, if you're too frustrated with him over 50, I don't think it's really fair because he's had his times where that's, and maybe if you want to get mad at them for investing in him the way that they did, then so be it. But now when you're missing mid-30s, like that's got to be borderline automatic. Luckily, it didn't cost us anything this time, but is there going to be a time soon that it does cost us something? Most of the time you'll see guys go 40 for 40, 42 from inside of 50. So is this his 1 or 2 misses, or is this a trend? And you know what I mean? I guess where it goes from here is going to be the answer to that question. We play Atlanta this week, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, who does not look that impressive, but coming up over the pipeline is going to be some tough games. It could be some real defensive struggles that a missed field goal or 2 might very well could determine the game. And it's going to be tough, man. Like if that happens, you got to wonder, especially as we get closer, as the season progresses, as the stakes kind of get higher and higher. So with that, I guess we can move on. Equally to the Jeremy McNichols touchdown, whoever had the first shutout, I believe it's the first shutout of the season, to being the Panthers over the Falcons. I guess you won that off his pool too, because that was kind of crazy. So I don't know what's going on in Atlanta. I'm not sleeping on them because Bijan Robinson is arguably one of the best 3 or 4 running backs in the league. And I think they can still beat you. They gave us a hell of a ride last year, so it's going to be an interesting game coming up.
I mean, they're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team. They almost beat Tampa. They only lost by a field goal in the opener. Then they beat the Vikings, who are 2-1, and they beat them like 22-9 or something. I mean, they beat them convincingly, and then they get trucked by the Panthers. It's kind of hard to know. I mean, I guess part of me wants to say, however Penix plays, is how they're going to do. And of course, you already talked about Robinson, but I mean, they're 8-9 last season. They've got, they've got a really experienced defensive coordinator in Jeff Ulbrich. They've got Raheem Morris, who's in his second year there, and Zach Robinson is the OC. They've got some good coaches. And here's the thing that blew me away. And I honestly am like questioning whether Pro Football Reference.com, if maybe there's a bug in the software, but they are, according to Pro Reference, they're the second ranked defense overall in yards given up. They're only 13th in points given up, but that's a hell of a lot better than I was expecting. And they're the number one passing defense in the league right after 3 games. So maybe that's just one of those statistical anomalies where the stats don't tell the full story. But they're top 10 versus the run. So, and they're not terrible on the offensive rankings. They're like the 6th ranked rushing team for obvious reasons. But anyway, I was kind of expecting them to be down at the bottom of the league just because, their record and getting trucked by the Panthers. But that is not the case. They're doing really well on the defensive side of the ball.
The big difference coming into last week that everyone was talking about with the Falcons is that they finally started generating a pass rush, and they were really coming after people, which showed up in that Minnesota game. Against the Panthers, I'm not sure what the hell happened. I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but they gave up 30, to that. That's a shocker. I don't expect us to do that to them this week. But what all this reminds me of is every year at the beginning of the year, you try to get a handle on teams and you just can't, right? The Packers were, they're going to supplant the Eagles in the NFC after week 2. And then they go up to Cleveland and score 10 points and lose. The Jets go down to Tampa. Tampa's another team considered this is a possible contender in the NFC. And the Jets almost come back and beat them in Tampa. It's the worst of all cliches, the week-to-week thing in the NFL. But you just don't know what you're going to get. It's going to come down to the matchups, the game plan, the injuries.
The bounces, a couple bounces one way or the other, and the game changes the direction.
That's it. A call here and there. What I'm really encouraged by, and this is the one thing I wanted to say if I was coming on the pod with you guys, I came into this season looking for 2 things. One, and the one that's germane here, are the Commanders that we thought we knew coming in. This is a team that's a contender. Can they sort of pick up and become a good team and be a team that you realistically expect to be in the playoff hunt? After 3 weeks, I'm feeling pretty good about that. We haven't played at our best, but we're 2-1 and showing signs on both sides of the ball of being a legitimate team. That makes me feel pretty good going into week 3 against almost anybody. I think that there's enough on this team, enough layers on both sides of the ball, the coaching, the special teams. I think we're a tough out coming in. If you're Atlanta and you're not concerned about this game, you have not been paying attention.
The wild thing about Bijan Robinson that jumped out at me is not only is he the leading receiver, and it's not close, the leading rusher, but he's also the Falcons' leading receiver. So, that guy is their offense. So when we start talking about like keys to the game and how do you approach it, I think there's an obvious answer to that, because Penix is completing 58% of his passes. He has 1 passing touchdown in 3 games and 2 interceptions. So they're doing almost nothing through the air. And what they are doing is most of it's going to Bijan Robinson. It's all on the ground.
The story this weekend was the turnovers. Both his interceptions were this week, and they had a fumble this week that they lost. So that's 3. Now they did recover 1, but it just depends on where you are on the field. The Panthers only put up 231 yards of total offense for 30 points. Yeah. They also had a defensive touchdown and 3 long field goals. So it's not like the Falcons played bad on defense. They didn't play bad on defense. They just played very bad on offense is what it looks like to me. And I guess I guess maybe health now becomes an issue for this week, depending upon how banged up our defensive secondary is.
Yep.
Penix certainly looked like a rookie this year, not like a guy that was, trying to do something legit for his second year. And I've actually seen a couple of places suggest that Cousins ought to start this week.
The suggestion was definitely there because Penix got benched for Cousins.
Yeah,
and it might have been mop-up duty. But I believe today at practice, the head coach was asked, and he said, nope, Cousins does not have an opportunity to compete for starting snaps. So they've kind of already ruled that out. It's Penix will be the one starting. Now, what that means, it's if they're not going to be quick. You almost can't pull the trigger now, right? Like if you're investing him in, you benched him, now you've given him the vote of confidence. If you pull him again,
yeah,
I mean, now you've just completely crippled his ability to be your starting quarterback. When Kirk Cousins is making what he's making.
Am I the only one who's super glad that it's going to be Penix and not Cousins?
Yeah. I am too. 100%.
Not that I think Cousins is all that at this point in his career, but I could see him. I just think that would be a massive game for him coming into.
String it. Yeah,
We're not going to confuse Cousins. We still have a shot at confusing Penix.
Yeah.
Well, and Cousins may not be all that in a bag of chips in the playoffs, but the dude sure knows how to get up for a fuck you game when he needs to.
It's all about the fuck you. You're right. Yeah.
That's true.
Sorry, Mom.
So, I'll transition off of their quarterbacks to our quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, rumor has it now he's been walking on a big boot. That there are a lot of people around the facility that said there really wasn't even an option that he was going to start the game. Somebody asked Dan Quinn, I believe, if it had been a playoff game, would Jaden have played? And at that point, they even said no, which leads us to believe that maybe that it wasn't as close as they let it on to be that maybe Jaden would or wouldn't go. I personally, in the camp, I would probably sit Jaden again. I would play Mariota. You've got you've got to be confident in Mariota at this point, and confident enough at least to let him go out there and play a down team. Give Jaden another week, another 10 days of not having to think about being the starting quarterback at least. But what does that concern you guys? Would you be fine with Mariota against Atlanta in a kind of another revenge game for Mariota? Or where's your feeling on that stuff?
I would be personally totally comfortable with Mariota playing another week. When he played last week, it highlighted to me some of the things that were missing in Jaden's game over the first 2 weeks. With Mariota, I saw the ball coming out quick. He was decisive. He wasn't hesitating. He was accurate. He ran with purpose when he needed to and did so effectively. Those are all the elements that made Jaden last year and what made this offense so special last year. And I thought that they were lacking for the most part for 2 weeks when Daniels was in there. Essentially, I thought that Mariota helped this offense last week look more like the offense of 2024. That being the one that can be very explosive with a big playability, an offense that can put a lot of pressure on you in a hurry and keep a defense guessing. I say we roll with that for another week.
For me, if Jaden is a full go in practice, even Friday, if he's full go practice Friday, I want him on the field. And I think, and Paul, everything you said is 100% right about what Marcus did against the Raiders. I kind of the impression that if Jaden had been a full go, we might be talking about how Jaden is back, because the Raiders defense was not the Packers defense. It wasn't even the Giants defense. I think they were tired and slow, and we out game planned them. Marcus did great. I still want Jaden out there, but I want him to practice at least Friday. At least Friday.
I I kind of feel like if he's not 90%, you sit him for another week. Even if you're comfortable with him practicing, if he's not at least 90%, you sit him for another week. This is why we're paying Mariota what we're paying him, right? And I know a lot of us scratched our heads a year ago when we brought in Marcus Mariota, but I got to tell you what, the guy's done nothing but impress me since he got here. He played in 3 games last year. He had a stunning quarterback rating last year. It was better than Jaden Daniels. His rating over 3 games. His completion percentage was 77.3 last year. Not quite that good against the Raiders, but he's making all the right decisions. He's doing all the right things. And I don't know, maybe I'm having bad flashbacks to RG3 and the knee his first year, but I'm just feeling like if Daniels isn't, I know, I see you, Mark. I see you. But if Daniels isn't at least 90%, I don't want him out there against the number 1 defense in the league.
Yeah, I want him practicing and be a full go where they're not worried about his knee. Did you hear Mariota's numbers? I think it was John Keim that Marcus has played 9 quarters for Washington, and I think I have these numbers right. 48 for 62 for 560 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks.
That sounds about right. That looks about. I'm looking at the 2024 numbers and add Sunday to it. That looks about right, Mark.
So he's just, he's killing it. He's killing it.
He is. He's absolutely killing it, and he is doing a fantastic job of holding down what Joe Gibbs called the second most important position on the team. And I have complete faith in him anytime we have to go to him at this point in time. When was the last time we could say that about the backup quarterback in Washington?
But
most years, we can't say that about the quarterback in Washington.
But to elaborate on that, though, Bob, is he's like a closing pitcher, right?
Mhm.
Like, he's the kind of guy, like, and trust me, I feel you. I agree with you. I'm 100% confident in, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to ask my closer to come in and do more than an inning or an inning and a half, because I understand that beyond that, you start to set yourself up. So I will say, personally, I think we got it. We got the win this past week. I would err on the side of caution. If Jaden is not a full go by Thursday, I'm not playing him this weekend. And that even means if he finds a way to be almost a full participant and it's not just because I need him to know, it's because I need him to be comfortable in his knee on field and being able to move and run and not be thinking about the fact that his knee is compromised. Look, and a 75% Jaden Daniels is probably still better than 100% Marcus Mariota. I don't think anybody's even going to argue that, at least to what we've seen to this point. But at the same time, a 95 to 100% Jaden Daniels in October, November, and December is far more important than a 75% Jaden Daniels being on the field this weekend.
And a 75% Jaden Daniels is at high risk to become a 25% Jaden Daniels or 0% Jaden Daniels. Because, Dan Quinn got his ass kicked in a game. Jaden, the way Jaden plays, it's just asking for a disaster to put him out there if he's not really ready to go. And I'll also throw out something I said a couple weeks ago, which is, having an orthopedic background, he's got a sprain. A sprain is a tear. He's got damage. He's got either stretched and torn ligament or he's got a partial tear. And so I'm just putting it out there. We might not see him for a while. It might not just be about this weekend. It might be a while.
It's fair.
It is, and I think, honestly, I think erring on the side of caution is the way to go here. I am not in the camp of pushing him back, and it's nothing. And part of, you know what though, I have to give Dan Quinn a lot of credit. I think that Jaden knew by Tuesday of last week that he was not playing this weekend, but and that was Dan Quinn standing up, making the decision, not trying to let Jaden Daniels talk his way back, and almost be, get the player out of their own way a little bit there, of making sure that they don't go too far and do things that they shouldn't be doing, and then get themselves hurt more, because he's a competitor. He wants to be out there. If he didn't, I wouldn't want him to be our starting quarterback, right? Like, the last thing you want to die to do is to sit here and look at his knee and say, "No, coach, I can't go." No, he needs to be battling to go, and the coach needs to be strong enough and smart enough to tell him, "No, dog, you're going to watch, and it's okay, because guess what? There's going to be 14 more of these coming up in the next couple of months that we're going to need you for." So,
Hey, bro, did you see Jaden just texted all in for week 4?
oh my gosh, shut up.
And
I
then
have
there was,
interesting
You got me
stat-
for about a second.
then there was silence.
I got an interesting stat.
Was it sponsored by Nike or?
That was a personal text direct to Mark. It's an exclusive.
So I just saw an interesting stat come across Twitter or X, whatever. Can you believe that we are 9-2 in our last 11 home games? When was the last time we went 9-2 at home over 11 game span?
1990 and 1991. I'm venturing.
Bananas. I mean, when you win 12 games, but still, just thinking about the fact of what used to be the opposite of home field advantage has become obviously something that they're these guys like to play, and they like to play in front of our crowd, and it was another sellout this past weekend.
No,
I think it helps that it's actually our crowd for a change, instead of having more jerseys of the other color in the stadium.
so
There were a lot of Raiders fans there, brother.
Bob, in the stadium, I can't do this great, but it was at least 25%. John, does that seem right? There was a lot of black jerseys, and they were loud up until the third quarter. And then there was a whole lot more burgundy colored seats, and the Raiders fan sunk lower and lower and was grumbling, and they left. That's how you build a home field advantage. They just got to keep winning.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though. I think it is getting better.
I do too. But I heard a lot of people say that, and maybe you guys being at the game, but I heard a lot of people say that the stadium, the volume in that stadium was different on Debo's return, on Lane's return, and on Terry McLaurin's should have been touchdown. That it was just a different pitch of cheer and scream and decibel level like that hasn't been around for a while.
Tony Kornheiser used to call that the arrogant roar. There was a bit of an arrogant roar in the stadium, particularly when Mariota hit Terry down the sideline. That place levitated a bit.
I was buying a beer, and I missed that play.
I'm like shaking him, John.
Shame on me. I
was like, dude, you're spilling my beer.
Yeah.
The moment I heard the crowd like extremely loud was on the Jalen Lane return.
Yeah,
that it was loud.
Well, you know what? That young man had a pretty good football game, and with a slightly better pass from Mariota, not only does he have a return for a touchdown, he's got a pass. He's got his first catch for a touchdown in the NFL too.
Well, did you see he came out? I think he might have posted on social media, or it might have been and after the game, he said, "No, I need to catch that. I got my hands on it. It doesn't matter what happened. I got to put that ball away."
I think McLaurin comes down with that ball, but McLaurin's one of the best in the leagues at contested catches too. So, but even so, it was pretty close, and I kind of felt for the young man. I also felt for Terry, because you're absolutely right. That he got jobbed. I understand, but boy, after watching some of the replays, that was a blown call. That should have been a touchdown.
Well, the biggest part about it was that they overturned it and called it short.
Right.
It was a touchdown on the field.
Right.
Yeah, they should have reviewed. They should have really taken their time to review that instead of what do they call it? An instant review.
Yeah, the expedited review. Yeah.
Why would you expedite that? I don't understand that. Get it right.
Especially when you called it a touchdown on the field.
Right.
If you had called it short on the field and you want to say upheld because there wasn't enough, okay,
Exactly.
I can kind of understand that. But when you overturn it to a short to not a touchdown, like that was like, come on, man.
Yeah,
I don't know this for sure, but I'd be willing to bet some money that Terry McLaurin is the all-time NFL leader in getting run down and tackled at the 2 or 1 yard line. It's like,
they were talking about that. I think they were talking about that on Sheehan as well. That he gets shoestring tackled a lot.
So nowadays, when you can see yourself on the jumbotron and you see somebody closing, you veer, right? So there's some guys who just have that feeling. Terry doesn't do that. He's just like, man, I'm motoring, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I think it's a function of he's a really great wide receiver, but he is not a burner. He's just not. I mean, he's not
anymore.
Well, he's 47 years old, I think.
Him and Bobby Wagner hang out at the bingo night on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they both have their AARP cards.
He's a badass at shuffleboard.
All right, Paul. What are you thinking, brother? What do you think about Atlanta? What do we got going on here?
This is a tough one for me. I can see an ugly game. I can see a low scoring game. I think the key for Washington to win this game is to limit Atlanta on third down. They got some weapons, in London and Robinson, and obviously we're going to have to contain those guys. When was the last time you heard this? Washington is tops in the NFL right now at stopping opponents on third down. Opponents are only converting 28% of the time on Washington on third down. So I think that's a huge, huge key this weekend. And Atlanta hasn't been that great on third down. They're only 17 of 43 on the entire year. So they're converting at under 40%. So I think the battle of third down conversions will weigh in largely and factor into the outcome of this game. I desperately want to say we're going to win. I just think we're a little bit too short-handed in the injury department, and I think Atlanta is going to be super motivated to not only avenge for that overtime loss last year late in the season at Washington, but I think they're also going to want to make up for the debacle that happened to them this past week in Carolina. So I think they're going to be a very, very tough out on the road. I think it's a low-scoring game. I'm going to say Atlanta 23-22.
Atlanta going to pull the upset, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Thought we were friends, Paul. Bob, what you got, brother man? I'm kidding.
I don't disagree with a lot of what Paul just said. In fact, I don't disagree with any of what Paul just said except the outcome. I think it's probably going to be a fairly ugly game. I think our run game is going to factor perhaps even more importantly this week than it did last week, especially if it's Mariota again. Somebody started off this segment with the stat that Atlanta's got the top-rated pass defense in the league. And I think we pay attention to that. I think you see a healthy dose of Bill and C-Rod and Jeremy and even Mariota to some degree, as well as Samuels, right? And we run the ball heavily, and maybe we put up even more yards on the ground against Atlanta than we did against the Raiders. But I'm thinking 21-17. And notice that that's 3 touchdowns and no field goals because I don't have a lot of faith in Gay for, anything.
I thought you were going 7 field goals.
No. We don't have that kicker anymore. I don't know where he is, but he's not here. I'm thinking it'll be 3 touchdowns. my only contribution to that kicking thread was that my statement was, John's question in the thread was, how do you feel about our kicking game? And I said, I never feel good about our kicking game. I haven't felt good since, I think Chip Lowmiller was the last kicker I felt good about. So there you go.
Brother John, what do you got, my man?
Well, I'm going to start with, Dan Quinn, the way he organizes the season, the prep for the season, is he breaks it down into quarters. Not that there's anything revolutionary about that, but he's not going to want to go 2-2 in the first quarter of the season. And that's going to be I think that's going to be a big talking point is we can finish the first quarter of the season 3-1, or we can finish at 500, and 500 is not a good way to start. I don't know what the stats are for making the playoffs, but it's a lot better when you're 3-1 than it is when you're at 500 or below. So I think this is a big game. And I also think they're probably planning, at least tentatively planning, on bringing Jaden back against the Chargers the week after that. That's the best case scenario. And if that's the case, the mantra is, let's hand Jaden a 3-1 record. Let's win this for Jaden. And and I think Bob's exactly right. When you look statistically at Atlanta, it's a no-brainer. First of all, you got to I don't know if you can shut down the run with Bijan Robinson, but you need to limit him, and you need to put the game in Penix's hands. And then on the other side of the ball, you got to pound them down their throats because they are tough against the pass. And then just to something that Paul said, I mean, the injuries aren't good, but we have a lot of depth. We have a lot more depth this year than we did last year. We didn't need it last year, but I mean, you got Jeremy Reeves out there. That's not a bad guy to be playing. Hell, our backup safety that we just signed, I assume he's going to be a backup. But Savage is probably better than half the guys we had on the roster over the last 5 years. So I think we'll be okay on that injury side. And the last thing I want to say is I think we got to go into this game not like we went in against Green Bay on the road, playing cautious and letting them seize being aggressive. I think we need to take it to them right out of the gate. And I also think we need to take some chances. And I don't know whether it's going for it on 4th down or some trick plays, but we need to play aggressive and take some chances. Because we've all seen, like Mark opened with, the whole week-by-week league thing. That's real. So if you go into Atlanta thinking we just play conservative and don't make mistakes, we'll win, you're not going to win. Got to be aggressive. So I'm going to call it 30-21 Washington.
Well, before we move on, I have to give John some serious flowers. His prediction last week was 34-17 Washington, and it was going to be capped off by a special teams return for a touchdown. Got it written down right down there. And he was damn close. If you look at the numbers, and he called the special teams return for a touchdown. So we're
going to change the pod from blind pig to blind squirrel. Finds acorn.
That's right. That's big time. But big time props to you, Brother John. I will go next and say I think that Kingsbury and this offense take a look at what has been working and they continue it. I think we are going to absolutely run down their throats. It's going to be tone setting. Dan Quinn damn near broke his whole face in the last game and then did the post-game press conference without cleaning it up with blood all up in his mustache and stuff. The guy's just a badass. And I think that that's kind of emulating to the rest of the team. I don't think they care who's on the field. They're going to come. They're going to play hard. They're going to fight. I don't think it's an accident that you see guys like Jeremy Reeves out there throwing his body weight around, McNichols having big runs, Chris Paul coming in and being able to play at a high level because what they're asking him to do is be a bully and run the ball. Same with Wiley and some of the other guys. I think it continues. I think we're going to drive Penix crazy. Von Miller, nobody even mentioned him this past game. He had a sack. He did exactly what we asked him to do. and that's to rush the passer when it's necessary. Preston Smith hasn't even touched the field yet, and there's going to be some interesting dynamics over the next couple weeks. I think Mariota is ultimately the starter. There's some concern about whether or not McLaurin can go. I don't think that is enough to cause us to be an issue against them. I'm going to go similar to last week. Last week I said we win 27-20. I was obviously wrong. We won by a lot more than that. I still think it's going to be a little less than that because of the injuries, but I think we are the better team. I'll go 27-20 again, Washington. And I'm still waiting on that Lattimore interception. It's going to happen. If I say it 16 times, maybe once I'll get it right. So I saved brother Mark Ohm for last, as he's kind of coming back after a long hiatus from us. So, brother Mark, what are you feeling, man?
So first of all, I missed a great opportunity to put some like red food coloring on my nose and in my beard before.
I
So
wish I thought of that.
one thing that nobody has mentioned that I'm surprised no one has mentioned is we're always talking about revenge games and motivations and all that. We have a head coach, Dan Quinn, who took that ridiculous franchise in Atlanta to a Super Bowl and gave them their greatest moments of glory and ended up losing his job, maybe sooner than he should have. If you think that's not in his head, you're kidding yourself. Our starting quarterback, my assumption as of right now, is going to be Marcus Mariota. Where did he just leave from before he came here? That man is going to be.
It was not an enjoyable situation. He got kind of like lambasted as he was on his way out the
He
door.
left under bad circumstances, and here he is now. We all saw how emotional he was post game after this. This is a man whose life has just been handed back to him, right? His football life has just been handed back to him. This is a highly motivated professional quarterback who is going to be, I think, our starter this weekend. I'm assuming as of today that both Marshawn Lattimore and Trey Amos play and play well on Sunday. So I'm with that in mind. I think based on what I've seen through the first 3 weeks, that finally, I can see our team go into a game like this on the road and a tough place to play against a pretty talented team and be at worst competitive in the trenches, if not like win the battle of the trenches on both sides of the ball. I don't see Atlanta pushing us around and hurrying our offense and shredding our defense with gap runs and that kind of thing. I think we compete on the lines of scrimmage well with that, and I just think that they've turned. I'm ready to believe, right, that we've turned this corner, and I think what we saw against the Raiders is not a mirage. This is a pretty good football team, and I think they're a better football team than the Falcons are. I see no reason why they shouldn't go in there, play. It's going to be a game. The Falcons are tough, and they will not roll over. But I see us winning something for a fourth quarter kind of game where we end up winning. It's going to be one of those weird scores. So I'm going to go like 22-16. It's not going to be a high scoring game, I don't think. I think somehow we miss a 2-point. I don't know. It's going to be something weird. But I'm going 22-16 Washington. And I think it's going to be a game that we feel pretty good about talking about it next week. I think they're going to play well.
I like it. As we wrap up here, a couple little things that I wanted to point out. I don't know if you saw Jay Gruden's tweet, which one I think is arguably one of the best tweets I've ever seen from a former coach in my life. During the game on Sunday, gotta hand it to the new coverage that Cowboys invented, cover zero. Thought it was an all-out blitz. Turns out it just means cover zero people. Some other news and notes around the NFL. Jackson Dart will be taking over for Russell Wilson. Brian Daboll is now on red alert as the Giants head coach. You have to imagine this is his last gasp. Russell Wilson is now down. Jackson Dart will be starting. CeeDee Lamb looks like he's injured his ankle. He'll be out for an extended period of time. So not to get too ahead of ourselves, just kind of looking around the division, Philly blocks a field goal that would have won the football game and returns it for a touchdown, that if the Rams had a quote-unquote better kick, they would have walked away from it. So this is going to be kind of – we see Dallas here in a few weeks, but then we don't see another NFC East opponent until December. So it's going to be wild over the next couple 6-7 weeks while we lead into that.
I'm not sure, based on Jerry Jones's expression on his face at the end of that Browns game, Chicago game, that Brian Schottenheimer might be on red alert.
I hate that they're having trouble down there.
Oh, it's so sad. I wish the best for Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer. I hope they have just enough success to remain in their current positions for a long time.
Oh my! As a guy living here, I can't even listen to you guys with a straight face. Hey, Derek, you left out one of the biggest highlights since we were on last.
What?
DC passed the stadium referendum. We're going home, fellas.
That's true. Yep, that got officially voted through. Washington will be building a new stadium complex. I think it's going to be more. Obviously, it's going to be more than just a stadium. It will be a complex. The current scheduled date is 2030. That looks like what the team is looking for. So, I saw some conversations about the reason why they're pushing for 2030 is beyond just the team. 2031 is the Women's World Cup, and they would like to host a game there. And there's some other big events coming up over the years after that. So that could open up a lot of opportunities for Harrison Company and DC to recoup a lot of the money that they're putting into this. And by the way, can we just another nod to Josh Harris for let's put up $2.7 billion to build a stadium to bring it back to RFK instead of just saying, let's put lipstick on this pig and remain in Maryland. Like,
they're leaning so heavy into the Redskins past. That's one thing, and I should have mentioned this when we were talking about our experience at the game. They trotted out Charlie Casserly on Sunday. They had D'Angelo Hall recognized at halftime. They were showing clips from the previous old school games against the Raiders. I mean, they are leaning so heavy into tradition and the greatness of the glory years. It's really obvious. I think it's really cool.
And it doesn't feel like the token legend, right? Like when it was under the previous owner, they would do something they would trot out a previous legend, or they would do, and you just look at him and be like, well, when all else fails, bring back the glory days.
Well, it was actually a bad connotation because it's like, damn, that was a long time ago.
Right, but now
it doesn't look anything like that now.
From what I'm looking at, what they're doing it in a tasteful way, they're doing it in a positive way, and you look at it and you say, now you're looking at what your fans and what makes your fan base strong is history and remembrance and
striving to become that again.
Right. You're not just doing it because you want to sell some tickets for a game, right? Like, so
it feels like they're trying to tie the lineage and the new persona together in a way that will forge some type of collective history for this organization, as opposed to having some type of a definitive dividing line, with the name change. And I think it's awesome to see. I really appreciate the fact that there aren't any pictures of Hall and Casserly in front of a row of Porta Johns on Twitter this week. So I think they're doing something right. I'm with you, John.
Well, and the wild, like, it comes back, and we talked about it on this pod. And Mark, as we kind of linger beyond where we normally, but I'm curious, because we haven't heard from you, what is your feeling about the Super Bowl era throwbacks and the redesign of that? Like we talked about it on this podcast, and because it was kind of a major development as the season was we were coming into the season. What do you think about it?
I love it. I think they nailed it, and I think that however long it takes for the NFL to approve that's going to become our new official uniform in a couple of years or something very similar. I think it's what they should have done from the very beginning. I think it took new ownership to come in that had a clue. So I'm a big fan. If we're picking nits, I know there's mixed feelings on the W. I don't hate it, but I don't love it yet. I think it needs some tweaking. I'm not an artist, so I don't know what that's going to look like. But if they do want to incorporate the W into the throwbacks, which I think are going to be the eventual permanent uniform, I think it needs to be blended a bit more and tweaked. I don't know if that's white piping and gold piping, whatever. But that was a long way of saying I love what they're doing, and I think that's going to be our new uniform in a couple of years.
Hey, John, are you having throwbacks to designing a logo for this site 15 years ago? Because Mark talking oh my gosh, how many rounds did we go through?
It's like, bro, can you lower that one line 1 pixel?
Can you change that gray by 0.5%?
Hey man, if you're gonna do it right.
I love it. I just, and it's not great on my phone, but I can't get enough of it, and I love this fact that they stayed with the matte burgundy. I think it looks cool as hell. To your point, this I think would look better if the W was filled in with burgundy, like it's on our wallpaper here on the podcast. You know what I mean?
I think the W is. I think you guys. The W is here to stay, man. I don't think that
it is,
because I think there's a big issue if you keep changing the logo and tweaking.
I'm not saying to take the W away. I'm just saying I think that graphically it could use a little more love.
I don't think they're going to change the W at all. I think that's our logo now.
All right, I got $10 that there's piping on it in 2 years.
I still have that feeling it's almost a college logo, but I guess it's because I look at it and I see the University of Washington helmet in my head, just in different colors. But you know what? I said it last year. I stand by it. The more this team wins, the less shit like that's going to matter to any of us because we're creating something with this livery, and that's going to matter in the long run.
I just have one bone to pick with Dan Quinn and the whole organization is they need to stop saying learn and grow. I've seen that creep into Dan's lexicon. It's like, don't say learn and grow.
Well, we're learning and he's learning and growing in this space.
Well, fellas, it's always fun getting together and mixing it up, especially on a Victory Tuesday. As things progress, obviously we'll be back next week, and we'll close this one out again. I had given a shout out to our brother Enforcer and saying, "Hey, brother, we're thinking about you. It was sucks not to have you here, but this one was for you, my friend, and we'll keep you in our thoughts, man." But we'll sign this thing off as always with the way we do every week, and we'll just say, "Cheers it up, boys," and that'll do, pigs. That'll do.
Mm-hmm.